Hey everybody, welcome back to the Unqualified Film Bros podcast. Aiden's back with us tonight because he is a huge Formula One fan, and we are talking about the new Joseph Kosinski movie starring Brad Pitt and Damson Idris, F1. Gentlemen, what do you think?
Aiden, go.
Yeah. All right. I mean, I have a lot of thoughts. I think the lens that I was primarily viewing it at, which is not the best way to watch a movie, is like the consistencies with what F1 is really like, from my understanding. Because obviously, I've never worked at an F1 paddock or anything like that, and I haven't been a fan for terribly long. Really, like 2020 to 21 was like when I started becoming a fan. So I feel like I understand stuff decently well. Like I think I've watched pretty much every race since then. Um, and it got like I think as a sports movie, as a racing movie, I think it told a pretty good story. It definitely feels like a summer blockbuster, which makes sense because Jerry Bruckheimer produced it. I think there were a few ways um, where being so heavily like funded and produced in cooperation with F1 helped it, and I think a few ways in which it hurt it. Um, Obviously, the primary way it helped was getting so much access. Like I remember watching the British Grand Prix and seeing Brad Pitt like in the lineup as they're doing the national anthem and some of those pregame ceremonies. And like hearing that explanation that there's this movie coming out. Um, and then of course all the racing footage that they used and the fact that all the other drivers in the race are actual F1 drivers. Like all those people are real, all the other like team bosses and F1. I mean, the guy who comes in and says, "Hey, we think you're using the like illegally made parts, whatever." I don't know if he was a real F1 official, but so many of the other people involved were, which is really, really cool. Not to mention all the footage of the actual races that they used. Um, I think where it missed out is not having too many like the movie, the conflict of the movie, the story felt very internal to Apex GP, and I think having some kind of rivalry with another team would have made it more fun. Like I think from Drive to Survive, the Netflix documentary, which does manufacture some drama. But one of the things that's really fun to see, and you see it even if you just watch the regular race broadcasts, is the drama and the conflict between teams. Like obviously the teams at the top all really, really want to win, but with how the prize money in F1 is awarded, like there are very big financial incentives, even to finishing sixth versus seventh, etc., all the way down. So I feel like no team wanted to be the bad guy. I did read a story of like because Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes were so involved with producing the movie, Red Bull's their biggest rival, and the bosses at Red Bull like, we're not going to be the bad guys in this movie, right? So it kind of hampered them because they were using the real drivers and the real teams that I feel like that would have benefited if like Haas or Williams or kind of the two or AlphaTauri, some of the back ranking NFL, not NFL, F1 teams, if they had had that competition, if we could have seen, especially with the aggressive way that Hayes is driving in pretty much this whole movie, if we could have had another like real F1 driver tell him to fuck off, I think that would have been just a really fun other element to add to the story. But I understand why they couldn't because the F1 drivers aren't actors and they're worried about, actually racing. Um, and you don't want to cast an actual guy as the bad guy, but those are a
Also,
lot of opening thoughts. But overall, I think I did enjoy the movie. And I can talk about some of the other technical stuff that I was focusing on um, later if we get into that. But yeah, I wouldn't say I was as blown away as I wanted to be, but I do think it told a very good story.
Yeah, it's fair. Though I think, I mean, yeah, for the story that it told, I think it probably would be too complicated if they actually added like another rivalry in. Because they already have like their internal rivalry and then their friendship.
yeah, I think the choice would have been one or the other.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Right.
Like
But
Ruben bringing Sonny into the fold for Apex GP and then competing against this rival team, or what they did with having him compete against the other driver on his own team,
Yeah.
Joshua Pierce, JP.
But also, I imagine the financial burden and sort of that race against the clock kind of thing is very common amongst some of the struggling teams too.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you
Yeah.
think of
Yeah.
like Haas, for example, was the worst team in F1 the first couple of years that I was watching it, and their staff I forget what the exact numbers are, but someone said in like a Drive to Survive, like they asked the boss of Haas, like, "Oh, how many employees do you have?" And he said something like 80, or I think it was either 80 or like 200, and they were like, "Oh, Mercedes, I think has 200 people on vacation right now." Like just to show the size and the wealth disparity between these two teams, like. Um, and I the yeah the I mean the amount of funds that goes on the financial implications of all this is, as you could imagine, staggering. Just I mean the transport costs alone, not to mention the
But
advertising.
also like they're not equal. I mean, yes, you want to do well, but some of these people, like lots of people, hate Red Bull and any sports league, mainly because they are so rich that it doesn't matter how bad they are in their first league, first seasons, first whatever.
Yeah,
They
fuck the Dodgers.
they can just continue to pay until they're good, and they succeed everywhere because they could just pay the best. That's
Yeah,
why people
and
hate Max Verstappen. He's also,
but he is an asshole.
he's kind of an asshole.
Yeah, no,
Um,
not kind of, very much.
I kind of expected him, and your point makes sense, but I always expected him in that movie, like in the first scenes when Sonny is just like, especially when he's screwing around with Verstappen and like trying to keep him behind him. I expected Verstappen to just show up and be like, "Hey man, fuck you."
He should have. The
That would
actual
add to
like
the realism.
Yeah, Verstappen has gotten into shoving matches with another driver on the paddock, and they do show like radio broadcasts, like driver radio between the teams
Yeah, yeah,
during
they're
race.
always complaining. They're like, "God, these stupid fucking Red Bull."
Yeah, I think I understand why they didn't make Verstappen do that, but they definitely could have taken an old
Uh,
one because qualifying too. He's like, "What the fuck is this guy? He's a fucking idiot. What are they doing?" And
Honestly, I think my it's a less like they did a really good job because they had access and because it was kind of the goal to make it look realistic. Do all the real driving on the tracks. But I do have there's only like one other F1 movie I think, which is Rush. I don't think there's been any others that I know of right now. There might be some old ones. Um,
And does Gran Turismo count?
oh, Gran Torino, you mean?
No,
No,
no.
Gran Turismo with David Harbour, Orlando Bloom.
yeah,
We reviewed it like 2 years ago.
Sorry. No, my brain broke. Yes, Gran Turismo. Yeah. Never mind. In my
Tangent.
mind, Max said Gran Torino, and I said Gran Turismo.
Oh
But
boy.
yeah, I genuinely, really enjoyed this movie. But I do think, I don't know, there's enough of a rivalry. I think there's enough of also just like the incentive that none of these people have won. It's not like you're trying to be the best. It's just like you're trying to win once.
yeah.
Um, which
Which
it did remind me of Gran Turismo because his goal is just to like podium in F3 or whatever.
Yeah, and that yeah, the honestly the one of those things that like I said didn't quite add up to me is for a team that has not scored a point at all to win one of the final nine races would be basically unheard of
It's
unless
a miracle. They said
yeah.
it in the movie, Aiden.
Yes, I
It's
know,
it's
but
canonical.
to do it like there, just a quick story. So there's a French driver who he was driving for Alpine at the time in the Hungarian Grand Prix. Um, it was very rainy, um, and so all the drivers had wet weather tires on. There's a massive, I think it was is either seven or four car pileup in the first corner of lap one. Red flag, well, they had to clean it all up. So the drivers go around and they don't change tires. They do that warm up lap going around. They all realize it's too dry, and it's time to change for wet weather tires. So Lewis Hamilton's in first. He stays out because he doesn't want to sacrifice the lead. Every driver behind him goes in, puts slick tires on, which puts Esteban Ocon in the lead. Hamilton pits at the end of lap one, but because the pack's so tight, he's in last. And so Esteban Ocon just holds on for the whole race, and has some great defending by his teammate as well. Um, and gets a challenge from not Hamilton, but someone else because Hamilton couldn't fight his way all the way through the pack. Um, and that's Esteban Ocon's only career win in F1. Something like that, I think, would have been really cool for the final race, but obviously you're not going to get rain in Abu Dhabi. Um, but that's the type of circumstance it would have taken, I think, to realistically get Apex a win in that year. Um,
Yeah, but they also have magical like
I
in
know they
this
would.
in this universe, the engineer is a beast who's just being held back by I don't know, whatever the plot. We have Brad Pitt's character who's, a legend who just never could win because
He's F1
Ben,
Jesus.
he's not a has been. He's a never was.
that doesn't make any sense to me for a guy that was like considered, one of the best in F1 for a few years, it seems like. That's what the movie makes it seem like.
Yeah, I don't think it's quite clear how long his F1 career is, but it kind of seems like it was less than two. Well, I would have said less than 2 years.
Yeah, didn't he flame out like 30 years before the events of the movie and in like his rookie season or the next year? And
Yeah,
Very
I
then
soon
thought it was.
after, yeah.
Yeah.
went to IndyCar racing and NASCAR and
Yeah,
cab driving and then found his way back to racing.
yeah.
But
Fast
So
to be
driving.
fair, in the F1 world, like in well, I guess that was the 90s, they said. So that's a little bit rare. In the 70s, I would have said, hey man, if you're in F1 for 2 years, hey, you're an F1 driver, dude. You're a legend. You made it. You survived.
I mean, there's still that element, right? Like even if you aren't good at F1, it is still the most
Yeah.
prestigious
And
drive.
it's still dangerous, but like it's so much safer than the 70s. The safety was like optional. They just
Even in the
wanted to go
90s too.
fast.
I mean, they
Like,
highlighted
But by the
the
90s, they've had
Halo
enough
thing.
sponsorships and things like that. They were starting to impose, more safety precautions. They didn't want fucking Michael Schumacher to wind up dead you know, on one of
Or
their
some
Grand
people did.
Prix. What?
I'm sure some people did.
Oh, he's a nice man.
yeah, I did also want to mention 93 is that crash. Ayrton Senna, who is considered, I don't think he raced long enough to be considered like a top driver, but he did die um, during, I forget if it was, I think it was during a race. Let me just skip to it. Um, yeah, he was killed during the race in Italy in 1994, and the day before during qualifying, another driver had been killed. So it was still quite dangerous in the 90s. The safety
Yeah.
precautions put in those cars now is far better. And
Yeah.
still, there was a driver in I think it was F2 who died in 2014.
No,
Um,
I mean, anytime you're going like 200 miles per hour in a car, there's only so much you can do. You
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, go
die.
200 to zero.
It's
Something bad's gonna
that's
happen.
a danger.
Yeah.
But yeah, it back in the 70s, I remember like I don't remember, but I read stories about like people's cars just sort of like blowing up because people had tried to just push them too far. Like they were mad labbing that shit.
When I had Aiden, I told you this earlier, but when the movie gets to the scene where JP has that big crash, the woman sitting directly next to me. I went to an IMAX screening, opening night, sat middle. It was awesome. The woman directly to my left, seat next to me, was wine drunk the entire time on movie theater white wine, and she was having a great time. But when JP crashed, she says at full volume, so everyone in the auditorium could hear her, why is it that always in racing movies somebody's gotta die? And I look over at her and she's got this like incredulous look on her face. Like she's so into it, but she's like fucking ruining it for everyone else. And it took everything in my power not to like talk her down from saying that. And then obviously Joshua Pierce doesn't die in the movie. And she's like, at the end, she's like in a huff about being wrong about that. But she held on to it the entire second half of the movie.
Like maybe he was a ghost that whole time.
I didn't realize this was a zombie movie. I thought 28 years later was down the hall.
Oh man, yeah. Joshua Pierce, Damson Idris was dead the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I
look,
race dead people.
I got a sixth sense about racing.
there's a lot of good scenes. I like it's fun. Like there's only so much going on here in terms of like plot and character development. It is the
Yeah,
fulcrum is you get to watch a bunch of people race, and that's fun.
Yeah.
Especially
it's very
because it's
much like it hits all of the sports drama cliches.
oh yeah, it's definitely going down the cliche.
Yep.
Every single, it also hits a lot of the same beats as Top Gun Maverick, which
Well, yeah,
knowing Kosinski, that'll happen. Um, and Jerry Bruckheimer. Um,
it's a
but
very
like
character thing.
it doesn't matter because Ben, like you said, you're there to watch cars go fast,
Hmm.
and
Also, you
cars
have
do
the
go fast in this movie.
random like board member that's just like the twist.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this guy's evil. Wow,
Yeah, that came completely out of left field because we didn't really know him as a character until the third act.
Yeah, it does, but also like you see that guy in a movie, you're like, oh, he's the evil British character. Like,
exactly. That's what I was thinking. As soon as they introduced him, you're like, oh, this is my eyes and ears on the board. I was like, oh, that guy's evil for sure.
with those teeth.
Especially his mannerisms. He's like, oh yeah, Hail Mary, you know.
Yeah,
Ah,
yeah,
yes,
he's
Like,
like,
yeah, this guy
America.
would kill someone.
Yeah,
Um, well, yeah, I mean, aside from all those, and it doesn't take away from the movie. I mean, it moves nicely. It's supposed to feel like a blockbuster. It is a blockbuster. Every movie does not need to be the same, and the goal I think for this was to showcase F1. And
yeah,
I think
mission accomplished.
Yeah,
even if there are
absolutely.
miracles in Aiden's eye, it still does a good job, and I love the addition of how many safety cars and the red flag at the end, because those are all real things that have impacted races, like Verstappen winning his first. It was his first title, right?
yeah.
On
So
a
yeah,
safety car.
yeah. So his this is a crazy story again. His first title in 2021 was at that track because that's where they usually end the year. And he was down. He and Hamilton were tied on points. So whoever won the race or whoever finished ahead in that race was going to win the championship. Hamilton was ahead, Verstappen was behind, and then I believe it was Nicholas Latifi, who was another one of those drivers who was just not good enough. Crashed a bunch. Crashed. Verstappen pits for new tires because he was not going to have a chance of catching Hamilton without it. Um, they were lapped cars, and typically at the end of a safety car, the lapped cars can unlap themselves. But this was so close to the end of the race that was going to take too long for everyone. So instead, what they said was just the lapped cars between Verstappen and Hamilton could unlap themselves, which basically put Verstappen right behind Hamilton, Verstappen on brand new tires, and we had, I think it was 1 or 2 laps. I think it was 2 laps, and basically left Hamilton as a sitting duck. Um, and there's this great clip of Toto Wolff, where you see at the end the Mercedes boss on the radio talking to the F1 steward, going, "No, no, Michael, this is not right." He is extremely Austrian.
Yeah, no, I remember that call. Yeah, that's the fun. Also, why I don't think you need a rivalry in like the F1 movie, because if you watch F1, you get all this shit. It's one of the only sports where you can hear what they're telling each other and
That's true.
talking shit about everyone. It's hilarious.
Yeah, you do get mic'd up a lot more than you do in any other sport because
And
everyone involved.
they're not like afraid to show, somebody just saying like, "Oh, this is bullshit, Red Bull, what the fuck?"
Yeah, it is. It is great the extent to which we get that radio. It's kind of odd that the teammates typically do not have direct radio to each other.
Mhm.
But I do understand. I think that's probably because tensions get high, and they're typically not coordinating as
Oh
much
yeah, they're
as Hayes is trying to
it's like a
coordinate.
safety valve in case somebody gets pissed off at the other guys. Like, with this, you didn't let me pass, and then they get into a shouting match, and nobody can tell them what
Well,
the
that's
thing.
what
Yeah,
happens in the movie between Sonny and Joshua.
Well,
Is
yeah,
they
that's the
have
safety valve.
they don't communicate with each other. They have to go through their crew, and that leads to JP crashing. That leads to tensions between the two of them. That leads to all of Sonny's shenanigans with Joshua not knowing what's going on. I mean, yeah, direct radio contact would be, I think, both beneficial and a detriment to the
It's
drivers in the cars.
it's
Yeah,
almost
I
never
think
beneficial because the drivers sometimes will have like confident opinions and they're wrong. And so you need the engineer to tell them like, don't do that, ignore that guy. And to have like a third party just like stop him, it just doesn't work.
Yeah, I think this movie, I think partially to appeal to an American audience, partially because it's Brad Pitt, it kind of overdoes the extent to which a driver is in control of the whole thing. I mean, of course, ultimately they're the one in the car. You can tell them to go into the pit stop and they don't have to, but it is very much, it's a lot more the driver listening to the team. And also that bit where Hayes comes in and they give him hard tires instead of soft. Like you can't you can't actually see when you're in the car. So he wouldn't have known until he actually got out and started using the tires and could like feel that.
He had the force, Aiden.
Yeah.
You have to remember, this is Brad Pitt. He's got
I
that
mean,
sense about
This
him.
is Sunny Hayes, man.
C
He
is for
knows.
combat. C is for
yeah.
chaos.
Yeah, I did I wanted to talk about too uh the reckless abandon with which he drives. Um F1 does have a penalty system where if they think you are causing a
Oh
collision
yeah, this guy
or
would be
being reckless,
penalized.
if you would get 12 penalty points in 12 months, you're suspended for a race. And I think they probably would have given Hayes.
Sonny blew past that.
Yeah, I'd say he's getting at least 1 point for each of those times causing a safety car in that first race. I also think when he's holding up Verstappen, he's obliged by the rules to move out of the way. He's probably getting a penalty point for that. Um, yeah, he's getting suspended for sure. With all the times he's intentionally trying to cause shenanigans and cause collisions on track. He might have gotten to 12 just that first race with causing three safety cars.
Maybe that's why he got into a crash, as he's like, you know what, I'm going out in a blaze of fury.
Yeah.
I
Um, I wanted to ask what you guys thought of the one of the beats of the movie that I didn't quite understand in shoot, I don't remember which track it
Was
was
it
at.
forcing
Oh,
the love story between Carrie Condon and Brad Pitt?
no, I understood
Because
why they
while
did
I
that.
enjoyed that, but it didn't need to be in the movie.
uh,
Agreed. No, it was the moment, I
I
think it
have
was in
love.
Vegas, where he realizes there's no playing card in his pocket and then drives angry and crashes. I didn't
Yes.
It's a
I didn't quite
superstition.
understand. Yeah, I guess I didn't understand his turn to anger. It didn't seem to be motivated by anything other than I guess forgetting his card. Um
As
it
as I interpreted it, and the movie could have done a much better job showing this, but I'm pretty sure that like he didn't have a playing card when he crashed before, and when he didn't have the playing card, he realized like, is this my time? I don't know. That's like all I could get out of that. But it is kind of weird where he just like it's his good luck charm. I get that, but also yeah, he just stopped talking and then just fucking went off.
Yeah, it seemed like he was trying to crash after realizing he didn't have the
Hmm.
card. Um, yeah, I'm curious to see maybe what other people in the broader online community think about that
I,
because that was the one I
that
guess
was remarkably vague for a blockbuster.
yeah, because they
That's
need
it.
him in the hospital. They need that kind of revelation about the extent of his injuries from the 90s. So I understand why they had him crash. It's just the reasoning for it didn't I didn't quite understand it.
I would have understand more like I don't know fear. I don't know what it is. It's kind of a confusing thing. I get the premise, but not really the background and the context.
Yeah.
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 It may have been a cut scene, mostly. That's the only
Oh,
thing I can think of is that there was a scene that was cut that would have better explained it, and I think it probably would have tied back to his original like horrific crash, but
Yeah, because they
definitely
don't
seemed like something was missing there.
they do a good job setting up throughout the first two acts what his pre-race rituals are and how he, ends his rituals with selecting the top card off the deck, not looking at it, and sliding it into his pocket. So we know what importance that has to him as a character. But yeah, if memory serves, I don't think they show any other example of him not having the card.
Mm.
Yeah.
So I really think it just has to do with him not being in the right headspace for a race. And that's why he's angry, is because he forgot the card. And that puts him in the spot where he is going to drive recklessly and in a position where his his mind is elsewhere because he knows he fucked up his ritual and that's throwing him off by itself.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it was, I think it really was the active decision to put the car into qualifying mode, which I couldn't tell you exactly what that does to the car, but I can tell you that the average lap time in qualifying is faster than during a race. Um, so I think it just meant not being able to have as much control over the car or, driving faster than you should.
Mm.
Because you think about like if you did one lap around a track versus if you had to do 50, that one lap would be faster than any of the average 50. Um,
Yeah. Well, but yeah, I agree. It's kind of confusing, but other than that,
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
good.
Um, I also wanted to ask you guys who don't follow F1 as closely what you thought of the commentator dialogue specifically. Like, of course, it was there to explain to non-F1 fans. Did it feel a little too expositional to you, or you like,
Yes.
okay, yeah,
I thought it was
It
weird
was
that they
way too
kept
much.
talking about random people.
Like, I think they should have played it more like an announcer might and let moments breathe. Like,
Yeah.
it should have been far more accurate and play it closer to the, but I get it. I
Like
get it.
for the necessary dramatization of the race for the film, for the narrative of the film, obviously they had to pay more attention to Sonny and Joshua, but being a sports fan, I think for all of us, we can realize that a real play-by-play announcer of any sport wouldn't spend that much time of a sporting event focusing on just one or two participants.
Yeah.
yeah.
It
And
was
when
it
they
To
did
was
be
that,
fair,
90
I
to
think
95% of the broadcast that was just talking about the Apex GP racers.
yeah, which in Hayes' first race would make a lot of sense. And I mean, of course, we're not seeing the whole race. I'm sure they would be talking about the leaders. But yeah, you don't typically spend a lot of the race focusing on the guys in 21st, 22nd, or
No.
15th, whatever it is. It's
My
usually the
God,
top
he's
five.
gone from 22 to 21.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I think it felt obviously, I know most of the rules they were talking about. But I mean, they do explain that because you figure there's going to be new people watching every week.
Yeah, I think it's also like it is an F1 thing, and they're probably also trying to get people into it, explain some of this
yeah,
stuff so that when they watch, they're not like fucking confused.
yeah,
Yeah. Like I will say when I started watching F1, I was really confused what DRS was for a long time, until I actually saw the change physically happen. Do you guys, was that explained sufficiently in the movie for you guys to understand what it is? I feel like they
Defensive
covered
run saved.
exactly. Uh,
It's a
uh,
baseball term.
Yeah, so the rear wing of the car, it's like basically two bars with like a diagonal thing here, um, to push like drag on the car to push it down so that it can corner better. On a straight, they can open up that flap, um, so that it makes the car go like 10 to 20 miles an hour faster, so that you can pass on a straight. Um, and until I physically saw that wing open during a race, I was like, how do they just flip a switch and make the car less draggy? Like I don't know, why wouldn't they do that all the time? Um, so yeah, it was that's definitely one of those things where there's, I guess the lingo around any sport, right? I feel like football is the worst or baseball, among other American sports, but yeah,
Oh God, baseball. Yeah, baseball's pretty off. Though football confuses people when they're like, all right, so they kicked it. So they get how many points? One or three? Depends. All right, they scored. Do they get 2 or 6 points? Depends.
Well, yeah, Aiden, going back to your question about, how the world of F1 is presented in the movie, I think what this movie does really well is it makes the sport accessible. Like
Yeah.
hmm
the three of us were, I mean, I speak, I'm trying to speak for all three of us, but we're not F1 fans. We don't know the sport. We don't know racing that well. Um, but there was nothing in this movie that, at least for me, there was nothing that I didn't understand.
hmm
Like I was able to pick up on everything either through context or through explanation that it made everything super clear and made the made like I said made the sport accessible.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah.
not that complicated. It's just you got to get into the
Mm-mm.
lingo and things.
But
Other
they
than that,
explained
it's
the
pretty.
important stuff that
Mhm.
mattered, and they did it
Yeah.
well. And like, I think this is called F1 the movie. Like, it's just like this is the big walking ad for F1, and
Yeah,
it delivered so well on that.
And a big credit on that to Joseph Kosinski because shooting this and having the sound design and Hans Zimmer's score all essentially in the style of Top Gun Maverick, which was the post-COVID summer blockbuster. To present a movie about F1 with all of the sights and sounds that you would expect from car racing on the big screen, presented so cinematically, made this movie so much better just from a technical standpoint, from filmmaking, not even from racing. It just was an awesome theatrical experience of a movie. And I think that also elevated the product beyond the story and the sport being portrayed on the screen.
well, yeah. I mean, that was the goal. As I said, like the story and everything is kind of like dressing for the main meat, which is you get to watch all the driving and you get the experience of they put a lot of money into this so you can experience F1 and then hopefully you'll watch it.
Yeah.
But
A
I
lot
like
of
it. I
just
like
just
F1.
based on Twitter, a lot of people are getting into racing now that they've seen the movie over the last week.
Yeah, F1's I mean it's gotten a lot more popular than it used to be. It used to be purely a European thing, honestly. But in America they've gotten really into it.
I think Drive to Survive has done a lot because you get that, that face to face seeing the drivers, seeing the like the drama between
Yeah.
them for a guy. I'll say as well, the British Grand Prix is this Sunday, 10 a.m. It'll be on ESPN or ABC usually. So if you guys are around, I feel like the movie did a great job, but really that drama of the full about 90 minutes is there are some dull stretches, but particularly, if there's a close battle for the lead, it's really it does a great job of building tension when it's a close race of like this guy is 3 seconds behind, but he has fresher tires. He's closing half a second a lap. Is he going to be able to catch up by the time the race is over? Is he going to be able to get past?
Yeah.
Um, and you can't tell that tension because it's a 90-minute race and this movie was 2.5 hours. So definitely not worth it. To show one race, I think the way they did it was a much
Yeah,
better one.
yeah.
But that experience of seeing a full race unfold, a good one, a boring one like Monaco, I'm really glad they didn't show that because that's basically just qualifying. It's very hard to pass on the track. Um, but yeah, I mean, and Britain is the origin of F1, so the crowd always turns out. So always a lot of good British drivers.
Hmm.
Yeah, you mentioned the runtime of this movie. One thing that Kaczynski does really, really well is that his movies don't drag. I
Well, yeah.
I I was fully entertained for the full 2.5 hours.
If you're making a blockbuster that drags, you have done something criminal.
Agreed.
The entire point is that it doesn't drag.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it is good.
Yeah, just knowing what the total runtime was, I feel like they could have made it a little bit shorter.
There are
Um,
probably some scenes, personal scenes and things like that. I I like Joshua Pierce's mother appears in so much, but I don't get enough of a heart and soul to like the movie that I feel like that's necessary.
yeah,
It much more
We didn't
pivots
need
around
her as a
like his
character. I agree.
yeah, it much more pivots around like his acceptance of, Brad Pitt being like his older self and not listening to his older self.
agreed.
So
Hmm.
yeah, but overall, not that much longer. I will say, if you like this movie, go watch Rush. Um, that's a really
Hmm.
good one too. I mean, it doesn't have the same kind of like driving feel, but it's a great story. It's a true story. Um,
Oh, and
and
Ben, we know how you feel about movies that are true stories.
yeah, but this one's an acceptable one because Nicky Ladd is also he's a really cool dude, or was a really cool dude. And talked with the what's his name? Um, forget his Zemo. Who plays Zemo? You know all these actors'
Daniel
Oh,
names.
it's
Bruhl.
Daniel Bruhl.
Daniel. Yeah, that's what I thought. So Daniel Bruhl plays Nicky Lauda, and he actually got to like hang out with him for a few months to like, get his experience and do it justice. It's a good movie. And the one thing that I think it does do better than F1, and that's partially just because they're focusing on the driving, is they don't focus on the engineers that much. I mean, you have Kerry Condon's character, but they don't really focus on like it's not just making things faster and things like that. It's just making it work. Like there are a lot of drivers. I think Lewis Hamilton had this problem a few years ago. His cars just kept breaking, and not like he would crash into something. His
Yeah.
engine would just die. They're pushing it too much because they made Lewis Hamilton, Mercedes-Benz change their car that had won them so much, so it just kept dying. And that
Yeah.
happened, like Rush shows a lot of that, like trial and error with the engineering because you're having to put everything into these, like, specifications that the league gives you.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that is such a huge part of the race. I think Alex Albon for Williams has had to retire from a points place multiple times this year already because of car reliability issues.
Yeah.
And they do have a Mercedes power unit, so I don't know, maybe it's their fault. But
Dude, the Mercedes-Benz, I don't know, man. The Germans,
the Mercedes are still finishing the race though. So I don't know, I don't know if it's sabotage or what. Um, I did want to bring up a couple things that I really wish we had seen in the movie, and then I want to say one thing that I did really enjoy about it, and those are I think my final thoughts here. Is I really wish we saw something from qualifying because I think that is another type of tension where it's all the cars go around the track and the slowest five get eliminated. Then those 15 remaining go around, the slowest five get eliminated, and then those top 10, that's the remaining grid slot. I feel like seeing Apex GP's progress in that might have been, it's not as exciting as the race. I understand why they didn't show it. But I feel like it's a good way to show the progress because we just kind of get shown where their starting grid spot is. Um, Oh, actually, with 22 cars instead of 20, I don't know how they would do qualifying then because it's been 20 the whole time that I've been watching. Um, and then I really wish we had seen like a one shot of a pit stop because if you've seen like the Drive to Survive intro or just seen it on a YouTube video, whatever, it's amazing to see 20 people jack a car up, change the tires, and get it going again in 2.3 seconds.
yeah,
And of course, you can't have the kind of two actors we get as part of the cast do that, but I don't know, pay one of the F1 pit crews
yeah, they
or something.
they do the changes, but I think the part of it is also just they're having them act as well, which is like the pit crew are so like they have one goal in their mind. It's like do their damn job. They're not speaking, they're not thinking, they're just doing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think that just would have been a really
But yeah,
another cool
no,
shot
you
to
get that when
show.
you watch F1. Tons of people need new tires all the time.
Yeah, it's mandated. You have to change tires at least once unless it's a wet weather race.
God
Um,
damn.
yeah, that's just something that I think it would have been great to highlight the precision, the expertise, and the speed. Um,
I mean, we do get that one character who fucks up, and then
yeah.
she has to
Yeah,
have
we
that redemption.
we essentially have like three characters who are the like heart and soul of the pit crew and the only people we see and talk to from the pit crew. But they don't even have enough to like come out sometimes. It seems like they're lacking in numbers. But again, it's Hollywood magic, the details for that stuff are just sometimes too hard to get right.
Yeah.
And like the amount of takes it would take to do something like that.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. Just hire an F1 pit crew. Just put them in the
But
Apex.
then you couldn't have them act and stuff like that.
No, no, I'm saying like as stunt doubles, basically. I'm saying have whether it's Brad Pitt or
Oh, oh.
just have someone drive in, show like it doesn't even have to be. You could show just the real like Ferrari pit stop. I just think to show how quick
Yeah.
that is it just looks cool.
Though I wonder, I didn't look at the other cars. There are other people getting their, stuff done. I didn't check to see if they're the actual pit crew or something.
You didn't have your stopwatch in the theater coming up?
Well, they were doing it really
I pulled
fast.
out my phone on
Like
full
did it
brightness
anyway.
and did the stopwatch.
Good. I'm sure that woman next to you really appreciated it.
No, but there was a
Yeah.
guy right in the window, like two rows in front of me, just to the left. Maybe it was just the left side of the theater was fucked up that night. But 2 rows in front of me, just to the left, in the window between the seats, phone full brightness like 6 different times.
Just shoot these people, George.
Yeah. Put
Yeah.
him on front of the track and let someone run over him.
Oh no, I followed him home that night.
Oh, good, good. With your
Yeah,
uh headlights,
My high beams were on, yes.
yeah. All right, there we go. Good. Um,
but yeah, Aiden, I think they could have done some of that stuff, but also maybe they're leaving some stuff for F1, because you
yeah,
do see all this. Like, there's a lot of stuff you wouldn't be able to see in the movie, the experience of like driving in the car and stuff like that.
yeah.
Whereas, yeah, pit stops, you can see it's very impressive and you can see it all the time on F1. So if somebody turns on F1, they'll get to
Yep.
experience that.
Yeah. So tune in. Don't tune in for the pit stop. Tune in for the actual race. But
Just
also
tune in
very,
for every pit stop and
It's
turn it
part
off
of
when they
it.
yeah, it is
start racing.
it's a very good part of it. Like the difference between a 2.5 and a 3 is a big deal sometimes.
Mhm.
Second pit stop, that is. Um, I did want to close on a very positive thought, at least for me. Maybe you guys have other stuff to add, but I did really, really enjoy the ending of Brad Pitt starting or ending where he started, as just a guy who loves racing. And I think it's similar. Oh, shoot, the movie was just on the tip of my tongue, but like they were just interested. I guess no, Rudy's not the right analogy, but like he was in
Rudy.
F1, he won the race, he did it. And of course, his age would have prevented him from being in F1 for a long time. But
And his vision loss.
oh yeah, also the fact that he probably would die in the car.
I love that
Um,
they waited until the end and be like, yeah, this guy keeps suffering from vision loss.
I
It
interpreted that
wasn't
as he
important for
got
us to know
worse.
until later.
I couldn't
Uh,
tell if it was the crash that like restarted it, but
that's how I interpreted it.
yeah, I don't know.
Probably what we're meant to assume.
Yeah. But just I love that itinerant racer for hire lifestyle. Not that I would choose that for myself, but I think that it showcased perfectly that romanticism of that just loving racing, loving driving.
Yeah,
Obviously wanted to win, but not doing it for the fame or the money or anything like that.
who
Mm.
cares about social media? It's all about the race.
Yep. So that was really cool. And I'm probably not going to watch the Baja 1000, but um,
The Baja
it was pretty cool. It's a real race. I looked it up.
Do you
I don't
think
know
they
how many,
associated with them? They're like, hey, we could plug you guys at the end.
yeah. Yeah, I'm
I love.
curious.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was curious if the Baja 1000 knew that they were going to be in the movie. I assume they
Yeah,
did.
Probably. There was probably a
I'm sure
phone
they had
call.
to ask them for trademark reasons.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of trademarks, I also wanted to say there definitely was product placement in this movie, but honestly, not as much as I thought there was going to be. I really
No,
expected to see like the holds up a bottle perfectly to the camera with the Heineken logo out and then takes a sip. And there was definitely Heineken because they're a big sponsor, but I did not
And
see.
Ninja, that one was pretty blatant too.
yeah, they Heineken was much more prominent in Grand Turismo.
Hey, you got
They
it
drink
right.
they got a lot of the Heinekens. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's just Gran Torino on my
Yep.
mind. Get
Something
off
tells me
my
Clint
yard.
Eastwood wasn't in the movie about Jan Martin Burroughs' start in F1.
Mm-mm.
You sure?
Um,
No, I'm not sure actually. I should rewatch both movies.
Wasn't Orlando Bloom in that one?
He is.
Yeah.
Wow.
I love that Brad Pitt is basically playing a different version of Cliff Booth in every movie he does now.
That's just Brad Pitt.
It's an extension of himself as a person,
Except for a few roles where like my favorite roles of him are, in like Snatch and
which
what is
is
it,
about
Burn
as
After
distant
Reading.
from himself. Those two roles are about as distant from himself as
Yeah,
you
and
can.
Burn After Reading is my favorite. He's just like this idiotic,
I love
physical
him in Burn
trainer.
After Reading.
I got your shit, man.
You think that's a Schwinn? Great movie. Yeah, Brad's great. Javier Bardem is great. Kerry Condon is fantastic.
Hmm.
She
and
kind of looked like Rebecca Ferguson in this movie.
Yeah.
I saw someone
Like,
say that they should play sisters in some movie. It's like,
yeah,
okay,
maybe it's like
sure.
the blonde hair. I don't know.
Three.
Hmm.
I would watch that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Dune.
Um, see this movie on the biggest screen you possibly can. It is a summer blockbuster. It is a spectacle.
Hmm.
It is loud. It is big. It is everything you want in a summer movie. And it's Joseph Kosinski and Brad Pitt. So can't really go wrong with that partnership.
And go
So
try out F1. It's on Sunday mornings.
Yeah. Go watch the British Grand Prix this Sunday at 10.
ooh,
And then they're off for a few weeks after that, so I won't recommend the races after. But yeah, British Grand Prix, it's always a good one. Um, Lewis Hamilton, Lando Norris. Don't know if he's named after Calrissian or not.
probably.
Yeah, probably. He's the right age. His dad would have grown up watching Star Wars.
The name you land.
I'm actually gonna Google that real quick before we go.
We're gonna get that answer before we hop off the pod.
Yeah, Lando Norris, charming young lad.
Named for
Come on, early in personal life. Oh, his. Come on, come on. I'm just gonna Google search
I
Star
love that I
Wars.
got to use this Zoom background again after Gran Turismo. That's fun. I haven't used backgrounds in a while.
All right, Calrissian does not appear in his Wikipedia article, so nor does Star Wars. So I'm gonna assume it is a coincidence,
Darn.
but I don't want it to be. I think it's headcanon that he's named after him,
We could live
and
with
We'll
that.
track down his father. We'll ask him.
yeah.
Acceptable.
All right. Enjoy F1. Enjoy the holiday weekend. Enjoy the race this Sunday morning. We'll see you next week. Have a good night.
Good night.